Welcome to the RealTrending podcast, where we speak to the brightest minds in real estate about leadership, business growth, trends, and strategy. I'm your host, Tracey Velt, Senior Director of Content and Data for HW Media. And today I'd like to welcome OB Jacobi, President of Windermere Real Estate in Seattle. So welcome.
Hi, thanks, Tracey. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And, obviously you've been brought up in the industry. You have multiple family members, working with you, and we call it real estate royalty, where it's kind of like succession.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like that.
So your dad founded Windermere in 1972. And I want to talk first a little bit, just some lessons that you learned through the succession planning, and into your position, because I thought it was really interesting that everybody brought some different skills to the table. Generally, you don't find that. It's within a family, So talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh man, just the thought of succession planning in this business, well, probably in any business, is hard. Going from a patriarch who was infinitely immersed in the business, he did a really good job of bringing us up in the business, and he had a saying that it's always a crawl, walk, run. And so he had us, and it really was, I have 5 sisters. So I'm not sure that you're allowed to have an ego with 5 sisters. And so he kind of brought us up doing everything in the real estate industry. I think the only department I wasn't really allowed to be in was the accounting department. But it kind of taught us, it's so much of a service industry. We've had, when we were growing up, we all had restaurant jobs and things like that. And when the time was right, my dad kind of started introducing us into the business. And so I think he had a very long view of how to do that. And he didn't say, okay, here's your big, huge salary, go for it. He made us become not really make us. He kind of encouraged us to become real estate agents, and then become managers, and then general managers of offices and things like that. And so, I think we worked with him for 20 plus years before he finally bowed out. And the hard part of having a patriarch bow out is they don't ever really do that. They want to, especially as your parents grow older, they want to hear about what's going on, and they want to be included in decisions and things like that. And that's really hard when you're trying to take the reins and run your own style of business. So I think, the struggle there is that I would try and impart on somebody being a second generation is really, lean in and include your parents, if that's what it's come from, or succession of a mentor that you might have had. I think they appreciate it and need it. And then, we've spent the last number of years really working through. So like I said, I have 5 sisters, which means I have 12, nieces and nephews. And they're going to have spouses, and you should have Hobie Hanna answer this question. Actually, he's got a lot more than I do. It's taken quite a bit of planning from the second generation, which was a little bit of, the first one is I do it my way. The second one is a little bit more committee-esque. And the third generation, you got to have a few more rules in place and a better structure. So we've worked really hard over the last number of years to put together a structure that is inclusive of all of our family. If our goal is long-term family ownership of business, and to do that, you have to be very thoughtful about what you're trying to pass on. And so we've spent a lot of time getting those together, getting the kind of the rules of the road, the guardrails. And we've shared those with all of the kids, the youngest being 11 and the oldest being 28. And so we now have my 2 oldest nieces are in the business and are kind of doing the crawl, walk, run too. And so to hit on something you said when you asked your question is, I think because of our slow roll into the business, we gravitated towards different aspects of the business. I don't want to be, we all review financials and we're all involved, But Jeff Wood, my brother-in-law, has a master's as a CPA. And so let him take the role of really working with our tax accountants and figuring out the best financial advice for us. That doesn't mean disregard financials. So, Jill, Jeff, and I each take roles that we feel we have strengths in. And lastly, I think it is one of those check your egos at the door. You're never going to win a family fight ever. And so, you either got two choices: try and see how quickly that breaks up, or don't. So that was a pretty long-winded answer, I suppose.
No, first of all, I love that there's so much female power going on in the company.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Definitely. And I really, I've talked to a lot of brokers about succession planning, and there was really never any thought to the third generation. It's always one generation. And then, it's kind of like, oh, okay. When it happens for the third generation. So I think that's really important for, our listeners to hear that you started that. The one is 11 years old, and you've got a whole set of guidelines for, coming into the company and eventually taking leadership roles and possibly ownership. So I think that's great and very well thought out.
Oh, thanks. We can see I can't swear online, but you can see the blank show coming.
Yeah. Oh. So I want to talk to you about, technology a little bit. And obviously MoxiWorks was your in-house platform, eventually moved into its own company as it found so much success. So for you, what do you feel, brokerage technology obviously has been kind of a hot button for years. And now it seems that it's not as much of a differentiator because most people now have it, obviously, especially the bigger players. So really it's refining that and getting agent adoption, which we'll talk about later. So tell me a little bit about what you feel like makes a successful tech platform.
Successful tech platform. Well, again, when we, we were first in class tech back in the early mid 90s when the internet first really started coming out, and we built a lot of our own tech tools and all this stuff. And then it's a kind of a good example of my dad passing the torch. In the downturn, we had to revamp our tech, and he didn't want to do that because he was aging and didn't have an answering service nor email. And so we're like, hey, let us do this. So we did. And the thing that we figured out pretty quickly is that technology is a big black hole of money, and you're just dumping it into it. And so that's number one. And so how much do you have, and how long do you want to do this? And then secondly, you look around the country and you go, wait a minute, we're all doing the exact same thing. That doesn't make any sense to us. So, I am good friends with Hobie over at Howard Hanna and Jeff Detweiler back when he was at Long and Foster. And we were kind of getting together going, this is crazy. Let's join forces and let's see if we can do something cool. And then what we figured out pretty quickly is that the input of more is better than the input of a few. And so, that's kind of a background of Moxie is really, it's really for brokers, built by brokers kind of thing. But the role of technology, I'm a little bit old school in the fact that technology is not your end all be all. And this business loves shiny objects. They just love it. And I get it. I mean, I get every new tech toy that comes my way. I that's not a fault. I'm saying it's just the way it is. And, this is such a belly to belly business that if your technology isn't serving that purpose, then don't bother. I mean, literally don't bother. So it's here to make us automate the things that we should automate, remind us of the things we need reminding of. But not solving a relationship like business where we, our value, one of our huge values is being a counselor to our people, our customers, and that is not going to get solved by tech. So, for me, I think if I were really going to, that was, again, a long answer to something that I think is adopt pick the couple things that are going to really serve you well. Don't pick the 10 things that you can't quite grasp. That's pretty normal stuff, probably.
No, it sounds normal, but I think the industry has evolved from, oh, we need a tech platform that can do everything for the agent, to realizing that agents aren't adopting that. They're if it's too complicated, they want nothing to do with it.
Right.
And so by simplifying and giving them just a few things that you could do really, really well that they could use, you'll probably increase your adoption. So, and let's talk about adoption, because that is so difficult to get, especially if you're a company that is hiring experienced agents. So tell me a little bit about how you've been able to gain adoption of your tech, if there are any tricks,
Well,
advice for
Tracey,
brokers.
I think you said it. It's really the hardest part of being. Well, there's a lot of hard parts of being a broker agent, and it's you have to be everything in your business. I mean, everybody knows it. You got to be CEO, CMO, tech. You got to do it all. And not only that, your business, you need certain tools at different times of your business, right? And so having adoption, there's easy things that are always going to get adopted. Email, I mean, that's just a duh, right? Our CMA platform, because it's really, really good and people use it every day. So that's a duh, right? If you can say I have a platform, but I got to go to my MLS, I got to go to my CRM, I got to go to different places and I got to leave the platform. Well, then you're gonna struggle at adoption, right? Of course, they're gonna stop using it or stop seeing it or not have it at their fingertips when they need it. And agents need different things at their fingertips for all the different kinds of transactions that they do. So for us, if we can keep it on one page and we can simplify it, fantastic. And I'm not saying we've solved the adoption problem, because that's just never going away. But it certainly helps, I think, to not have to leave your platform.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. I know a broker who actually even came up with their own e-sign platform because they couldn't get it to, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they created their own because they couldn't get it to be just a one log single sign in. So
Yep.
it's interesting. And obviously there are some companies who've recently announced that, they were building their own platform, decided to go outside. And have you seen that trend happening a little bit more in real estate as, they realize it's a never ending money pit of technology?
That is the funny part. You see it all the time. I mean, that, deciding to build in-house or deciding to buy off the shelf, or people make those choices all the dang time. And they flip-flop between them, because the reality is technology is hard, it's expensive, and it evolves so quickly. So, let's face it, people get mad at their vendors and they're like, dang it, I can do it better. And then vice versa, they live in Seattle with the high tech cost or whatever, So it's, I get it. I do think the world is moving to platforms that can support multiple vendors a lot more. So you can kind of plug and play. And I think that will continue to become easier and more accessible. I do think, MLSs, the vast amount of MLSs and plugins creates barriers for entry to a lot of people. So those platforms are still important, because it's expensive to plug into all the different MLSs. Yeah.
I've been in real estate for 30 years now. And so I've seen Zillow come, I've seen all of these, the disruptors. It was like, at one point that's all you saw was the word disruptor everywhere. Where these companies came in and wanted to, disintermediate the agent. And I've seen a shift in that where, they're instead really wanting to partner now with the agents. Have you seen that shift, or is that a mirage? Tell me your thoughts on.
You've been here long enough to remember probably Costco, but not quite long enough to remember Sears or remember, this phenomenon is never new. And there's cycles of everything, right? Not down. I'm not going to say downturn because I don't believe it. It's just this funky last 6 months we had where interest rates spiked so quickly and everybody's off guard. You see the business models of the last one disruptor just kind of go, oh no, what happened? And everybody kind of knew that might be coming. And so downturns create, a little bit more, not downturns again, I don't think it's a downturn, but create a little more stability towards traditional. And then, a revamp of the innovation that's going to come, right? And so I just think it's a normal cycle for that kind of stuff to happen.
And I just wanted to run, because I've seen it all over the chat, GPT and AI, and, using all of that. And, I've already talked to agents who are using that in their marketing. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, there's full. You can't go to sleep without hearing about it somehow in your dreams. It's everywhere, and there's classes popping up. All our people are trying to integrate it into both. From our stance, from a franchisor, we're trying to have classes from our pro devs part of the company. And I don't know if you've tried it. It is kind of fun to mess around with. I asked it to plan a trip for me, a 10-day trip somewhere, and it nailed it. I was like, oh man, that's kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a quickly evolving subject for sure. And I think it does do some great stuff. I hope people don't forget how to write though.
Yes, exactly. As a journalist, I agree. Although I can see how it would really be pretty efficient for an agent who's trying to come up with a creative listing description or needs to write a letter, like have a form letter written that they send, that they hand out, or some marketing. I've heard that I have played with it some, and I've heard that sometimes when you get into like asking it questions about specific like real estate market, it might pull old data or not be as accurate as you need. So you can't really use it to do a market report per se. But
it's funny, our voice at Windermere is very, very specific. And I worked really hard with Shelley Rossi, our communications director, to when we write and communicate and do things. And if I went to ChatGPT or anything else and said, hey, write it, or even if I said, Jill, go write this, it's going to come out, the flavor is going to be significantly different. And I think brokers should be aware, we're getting paid very well to be service oriented to our people. And that means original, and that means, work hard for them. And so, I get it. Is it a shortcut to doing your job? Kinda. Does it work? Probably. I don't know. It just always makes me, you are, again, in the business long enough to know, we used to present offers. And I'm harping on everybody. Wouldn't it be great to be able to present an offer to a seller? I mean, that's kind of fun. And actually do that for your client. That's a service that is valuable. And now as things change, and I'm now sounding like a relic, I'm sure. So what do you mean? What does present an offer mean?
Oh, yes, I do remember that. And I've also seen a shift in, it was always, as a broker, my client is my agents. That's it. It's my agents. And that is true, obviously. However, I've seen this kind of move to a recognition that, oh, wait, I can't push everything off to the agent with the consumer relationship. As a broker, I need to be involved in that as well and offer options and, whether it's iBuying or whatever it is, different, again, concierge services, things like that. Do you see that in the industry, and what are your thoughts on that kind of consumer focused brokerage?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree with you. I think it's really important. I think our job is definitely to give our brokers the tools that serve their clients. No question about it. And I don't consider it getting in the way and things like that. I consider it, hopefully we are adding a lot of value for them. both to service them and touch points and all the rest. And it's one of the things I do love about the industry is that there is a significant amount of investment and innovation in the industry through lots of different ways. You mentioned iBuying. I'm not going into iBuying, but I partner with a Zabby, for instance, to have that as an option. We have had bridge loan for 25, 30 years, and bridge loans have evolved, right? And, concierge loans or whatever that, however you want to frame them are really, really great products for the consumer. And they're great products for our brokers to show value, to hopefully get a home up to par where it would sell for faster at more money, right? That's fantastic for the clients. And so I think you're going to see a whole lot more of that. Broker-led services wrapped with the agent intended for the client. That to me is a holy-ish grail of the right way to help our clients, both our clients being the agents and their clients being their clients. But that's I bet a fast track out there for everybody to try and figure out.
And I feel like in this market too, you're going to see a lot of innovation on that end as well. Things that never even considered popping up. There already is with, lately I've been hearing a ton about the companies like Milestones and Move Easy and Moving Station.
Yep.
And I know that Inside Real Estate has one as well, where it's that long-term relationship between the agent and there's no such thing as a past client, that they're,
right.
They're just people that you are, you have relationships with, and really helping build those relationships, because real estate it's hyper local and it's all about relationships. So, all the noise around technology and that only helps you facilitate those relationships, and that's all it should do.
Yeah, and you can envision. You're absolutely right, but you can envision those clients, getting a notice from us, from their agent and their mortgage rep, which is, hopefully ours, saying, "Hey, we just noticed your rate slipped below the last mortgage you did. Let us refi." Right? These are all products that are incentivized to help both the agents and the clients really benefit from the service that we should be able to offer as one-stop shops. Right? We've been saying that for how long now?
Oh my gosh. The one-stop shop is years old. Yeah.
And it's funny because you mentioned like Ben at Movie ABC, we've done some things with him. He's great. And, that whole, I'm moving to this address, turn off my cable and move all that stuff was around 30 years ago. It just has never been digitized almost, and so anyway, I think you're right. That stuff's going to accelerate.
So obviously we've got, the commission lawsuits and a lot of things coming up in the industry. And so knowing that, are there any changes in the real estate environment that would really change the way you operate or cause you to add new services?
It's a good question. And I think, man, that's a really hard one to answer because there's a lot of different facets to it. And unfortunately, there's a million different municipalities and associations and things that we need to deal with. I think if I were going to actually say something to listeners right now, I'd say get involved, right? We have a lot of people in this industry that do get involved, which is fantastic, but we need to be a little more organized about how we do it and what's coming down the pike. We have people that are challenging our commissions, just the ability that we can take them. We have all sorts of state changes all over the place and things like that. And as a business, often we have to adapt to what's happening rather than leading through it. I think we can do a better job of leading through it and making sure our voice is being heard in a world where, NAR has got a lot to deal with. And so I don't know that we're getting all the service we need. We need to handle it locally. Now, changing your business model, sometimes you're thrown stuff where you got to adapt. And you mentioned the lawsuits. Our MLS that's local to me is Northwest MLS, which is broker owned, not association. And they did things immediately to address those kinds of issues. That's how, oh man, let's start showing SOC. Let's start doing these things. And they're very, very proactive in that instance. That's what I mean by being really involved is we got to take control of that kind of stuff. I think from a business model standpoint, when we do see innovation, we grab a hold of it. One of the things I think most people are pretty good about now in our industry is when you see a concierge home loan come up, you figure out how to create it, right? Or those kinds of things. So I think that's how this industry operates. More service to brokers. Is it broker centric? Is it agent centric? Is it what is the world? And I think we all adapt. You saw it in COVID. How quickly did we adapt as an industry to what seemed insurmountable? So I was kind of long-winded in a roundabout way, but
Well, my last question is just kind of finally, what's next for the company? What's next for Windermere? Anything you're working on? Exciting new developments?
Our business is, we work really hard we're partners with all of our people. We're a franchise business, but I think everybody kind of knows this, but we have a 6-month franchise agreement, which creates really much more of a partnership between the franchisor and the franchisee. We love working with people. And so for us, it's finding great people to work with. We've got lots of irons in the fire of people that we'd be proud to associate with, both from a coming as a Windermere brand or keeping your brand like a Lion Real Estate did, and we're co-branding and things like that. That kind of stuff is really, really fun. I'm super excited to see my nieces come into the business. I have a 23-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. She's in college, but he's out. He wants to, and I've said, no, you got to go have a real job for a while. So, I'm excited about that kind of stuff. And it feels to me, it's funny because that fourth quarter was so hard and so bad for a lot of people. And a lot of our franchisees that, we've had to really help out, that it feels like this market is really going strong now. So I'm kind of psyched that I think 23 is going to be a pretty fun year.
Yeah, Housing Wire, HW Media acquired Altos Research.
Yep.
And so they do real-time market data. And I've been listening to all of Mike Simonson's weekly updates and everything. And they've been really positive, very positive. So I'm excited. I think that this is going to be a better year than people expected it to be.
Yeah.
Maybe not gangbusters, but
I agree.
But a good year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be good. I'm not as worried as I was January 1st.
Yeah. We need to stop with the doom and gloom and bring more positivity to it.
It's, we get a lot of headlines that aren't super awesome in our industry, but it seems pretty good now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Obi, thank you so much for joining the RealTrending podcast. I could talk to you for about an hour. I have so many questions about succession planning. We're going to have to get on again.
I'd love to anytime.
And go through that.
All right. Thanks, Tracey. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you. Bye.